You want to back off?
Hell no.
Good morning. How are you, Pascal?
I'm good. How are you doing, Greg?
Great. I really enjoyed Double Life. I think one of the great parts about it is a suspense thriller mystery, but overall, I think the heart of it is a friendship story. Can you speak to that sort of multi-layered approach behind this film?
Yeah, I mean, I think the forward action in the movie is solving this mystery and the action and thrill and suspense that goes along with that. But you're absolutely correct that at the heart of the movie is this very complicated relationship with these two women. They end up finding each other kind of against all odds and then partnering up, and resentfully, I think, at first, and then they end up finding this respect and admiration for one another, and they really find a connection that's honest and true to the two of them. And I think there's a real, I think there's a real turning point where Sharon sees Joe's sacrifice looking after her biological mom, and then that moment when Sharon says, did he love you? And she says no, and she goes, but you loved him. And they realize that the fact that they both love the same man is not something that necessarily has to tear them apart, but can bring them together, because they're the only two people who loved him and are searching for truth in his death. And so, I love that. I love the fact that it's this very complicated female friendship at the forefront.
After this movie ended, I know this movie's a one-off, but I just wanted to see more of you and Javicia together. Can you just talk about, you're talking about connection, the connection you had with each other, and you guys really, to me, as a lay viewer, really fit the screen as a partnership. Can you just speak to
Yeah,
that?
I felt like that too. And that's always the wild card when you're making a movie like this, where you're pairing up two actors who have never worked together before. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? And two females, that's not done very often. And Javicia and I really clicked right out of the gate. We kind of approach work the same way, and also just personality wise, I think the two of us just gelled. And so that always helps when off camera you get along, and then that bleeds into your on camera relationship. And that was a real bonus. And I loved it. I loved working with Javicia, and I would love to see a sequel. Like at the end of the movie, it really does feel like, are these two women going to become like private investigators and open their own company?
I mean, that's what I was thinking, and I hope there's some kind of pizza motif running throughout each installment. I mean, yeah, like,
They're just always eating pizza. They're like solving mysteries and always eating pizza.
yeah. My curious thing was, how good was that pizza? I really need to know, but maybe
It was really good. It was really good. We actually just normally, actors are eating and then they're spitting it out in between takes. No, Javicia and I were going down on that pizza. We were just like,
appetizing for me. It's appetizing on a outsider's perspective to see how just the relationship between you and Martin over the years and the kind of stories you've explored together as collaborators. What does it feel like to actually have that kind of relationship with someone over the years as a collaborator?
amazing. It's amazing. And I'm so lucky that Martin and I have found so many different projects to work on. We started working together 20 years in more of the sci-fi world. He cast me in one of my very first things I ever booked, which was a guest star appearance on Stargate Atlantis. And then we ended up working on a TV series called Sanctuary, which also lived in that sci-fi realm. And then we continued on. I was doing a TV series that was more action adventure, and he came on as a recurring director on that. And then we've worked in the Hallmark world doing more romantic comedy style work, and then the period piece When Calls the Heart, which is the TV show that I do. So we've worked in so many different genres, and there's just something about our relationship that just clicks. We have similar sensibilities. He runs a very tight but fast moving set. He likes to keep things fun. He's always playing practical jokes and making everyone laugh and keeping everybody's energy up. And that works for me. I feel like I try and approach sets and my own work the same way. And it's wonderful. You don't get it that often. So often in this business, you work with people for this concentrated period of time, and then at the end of it, everybody goes their own way. But to have this relationship that keeps on recurring for the last 20 years has been a blessing.
On the blessing end, I was just wondering how you've grown as an artist over the years, because when Martin was talking about starting off as a filmmaker, he was talking about the elaborate shots and the technique. And then as he's matured, he's talking about more of the human drama and the characteristics and how he shot Double Life. It's really about these two people and how they get along with each other. Wondering, as far as your approach to your craft, has it changed over the years, or as far as how you approach storytelling, or has it always remained constant with no matter what project you're tackling?
Oh my goodness, I hope it hasn't stayed the same. That would probably not be a very good sign as an actor if I hadn't evolved.
Yeah.
I like to think I've changed. There's certain things that are standard. I try and do a lot of work ahead of time so that when I get to set, I can just be more open to seeing what the other actor and the director have to offer, and we can kind of play around. That has been a constant through my whole career. But I think also just the more you work in a business, the more I've worked in film and TV, I'm just more comfortable with the genre. I'm more comfortable with sets. I'm more comfortable with where the camera is and how I need to move and how to find freedom and truth within that, within the constraints of whatever the blocking and the camera angles and the light. There's so many technical things you have to keep track of. And I think the more I've done it, the more I've become more free with that. And also I think I have more of a sense of fun with it, of where can you bring lightness and how important it is to be a good leader on set. If you're fortunate enough to be in that position, you can really help set a tone, for better or for worse. And so now I think as I've become more confident as an actor over the years, I've been more confident taking on that role of trying to bring positivity to a set.
You're an experienced actress and a professional, but does the inner child in you still get excited when you're seeing something like Double Life and you're co-lead, you're anchoring your own narrative? Can you tap into that, or is it's another job that you're passionate about and you're an adult and you're professional now? So
Absolutely. I 100% get excited and giddy. I still get excited when I see my name in the opening credits. That still gives me a thrill. I still get a thrill when I walk onto set and I get to do what I'm doing. All of it is still very thrilling and exciting to me. And I hope that never goes away.
Speaking of never going away in a positive sense, what has When Calls Are Heart been like for you as an experience, as far as building the community? And no matter what, this is a project that will really touch people for not just today, but for years to come. That must feel really good for you. And I'm sure that's very hard to put into words, as far as a community you built with the fans of the show, and maybe even just as important, the people you work with on set.
It means the world to me. And I think as the show has continued on for so many seasons, I mean, we're going into filming season 11 in a month or so. I feel so grateful for how the show has been received by the audience, and that our audience has grown every single year. That's almost unheard of, that a show going into season 11 continues to grow and continues to find new fans. That's an amazing gift. And it means that we're making something that is really, really resonating on a very deep level with people. People want something that makes them feel good and makes them feel inspired by the power of community and the power of friendships. And that's a beautiful thing. And then on top of it, I get to make the show with some of my best friends in the whole world. The man who plays my husband on the show, Kevin Smith, he's truly one of my best friends. To get to have him as a scene partner for the last 10 years it has been amazing. Erin Krakow is another one of my best friends. We talk every single day. And the fact that her and I get to work together on set, our rooms are right beside each other. We have lunch together. We go back and forth. You get to share this experience of making this show, as well as share our lives together. And that just doesn't happen very often. And I think I'm far enough into my career that novelty or that gift I don't take that for granted. I'm well aware that this was a rare occurrence, and I'm very lucky to be experiencing it on all fronts with the fans and with the people I make the show with.
Do you ever analyze? It's very few instances where a movie or a series will grow viewership year upon year. Have you analyzed, you're talking about, the power of communication. Have you analyzed its success, or is it something like you don't want to analyze, you're just living in the moment, you're just working with great people, and that's for other pundits, one would say?
And I think you can analyze it all you want. And I think there's something intangible about When Calls the Heart, quite honestly. It has provided a community for people like outside of the show. Like the fans have their own community, and mostly women, but women and men and kids and grandmas, they get together from all across the country, and they form these connections, and that has really enriched people's lives. So they're connected to the show, and they're connected to the stories we're telling, but they've also found a connection amongst themselves. And I don't know if you can really quantify that or analyze that. It's just kind of magic. You can't put your finger on that.
On that level, whether you're a filmmaker, writer, or in your case, an actor, did you break into the business because you wanted to do the work, you wanted to really, what was your passion initially, and was it ever to affect change or make a difference, or was it primarily just to focus in on the craft itself?
Initially, for sure, it was to focus in on the craft. I was just I loved creating characters. I loved performing. I loved working with other actors. And it was honestly quite more self-serving. I found joy in it, and I just hoped that it found a place in the world. But it was more, and I think that's a natural tendency, particularly in the world of film and TV, because there is a bit of a disconnect between making the movie or the TV show, and the movie or TV show being received by people. You're not getting that live feedback that you would in, say, theater, where you can tell that your work is resonating with people or not. But When Calls the Heart, I think, was the first time that I realized I was part of something much bigger, and I was getting a lot of response from fans of how my character's journey, the friendships that they were seeing, the stories that they were seeing on our show was really resonating with them. And they were sharing stories from their own lives of real heartache and loss and pain, and how this show either kind of shone a spotlight on something that they felt like they were going through themselves, or also just provided an escape, something positive. They knew it was going to be positive, a positive message. It was going to make them feel good during a really difficult time in their lives. They were in the hospital for a very long time, and When Calls the Heart kind of got them through, because it was something that just made them feel good at a difficult time. That's very powerful. That's powerful to hear. And it made me realize there's a very real and important place for this show in the scope and landscape of TV right now that I don't think is really being filled by anyone else. Actually, there's no other show on TV that is like this show. It's just kind of stands alone, and I think that's why the fans have embraced it so much.
And a final couple questions is, I really love the fact that Double Life, I'm a huge fan of the genre, and you spoke to this about, and you kind of answered this at the beginning of the interview, but I really love how ultimately Double Life is really a story not just about friendships, but it's also a story about secrets. You really never know who that other person is. Can you talk about that other element regarding Double Life? Because along with it being a great a friendship story, it's also a story about what's under the surface.
Yeah, I mean, I think those secrets and how they get very strategically revealed is one of the big motivating forces in the movie, and it kind of keeps you watching it and intrigued of going, oh, how is we know eventually Sharon's going to find out that Joe was having an affair with her husband. That, you can feel it. It's going to happen. It's not going to be something that's going to be a secret forever, but you're thinking when and how. And as the two of them, you can see the two of them starting to connect and starting to form a friendship. You're thinking, oh no, this is going to ruin it all. And then it does, right? Sharon finds out in kind of the worst way. And then it does fall apart and it rebuilds. So I think those secrets just add this element of suspense that's not just about figuring out the mystery. It's also kind of impending, oh gosh, I know this is going to come out and I don't want to see it. And that kind of feeling keeps people intrigued, right? It's a different level of suspense, which I thought was really smart.
My final question is just from your own working resume, can you, along with When Calls Are Hard and Double Life, can you recommend to our listeners and viewers a project that you've been in that you feel might be overlooked, underrated, that you want people to check out?
One of my favorite projects that I worked on was a TV series called Arctic Air. It only ran for 3 seasons and it was on CBC in Canada. And so a lot of people outside of Canada, although lots of people in Canada, it was quite popular, but outside of Canada, it didn't get a lot of attention or viewership, I guess. And I really love that show. It was an action adventure pilot show that took place up in northern Canada, which is an area that people don't know of a lot, and you don't see in movies or TV shows. And so I think I always enjoyed that we were kind of shining a light on a place in the world that people don't know a lot about. And then we were telling this kind of fun storyline of this airline and the kind of trials and tribulations and adventure that they would get into. I love that. I love that character that I played in the show, and I love the stories that we told.
I will catch up on that, and I will start watching When Calls Are Hard because I really enjoyed Double Life. Thank you so much for your time, Pascale.
Wonderful. Thanks.